Show that the derivative of sine inverse of cosine of x is equal to -1. First thing we need to understand is what's the derivative of sine inverse. So say we have got a function y is equal to sine inverse of x. If we take x this side or we multiply both sides by x, we are going to have, both sides by sine, we are going to have sine y is equal to x. And differentiate sine, every time we differentiate sine, we are going to get cosine. We maintain the y. Now we differentiate the angle, which is the y. That is going to give us 1. And every time we differentiate y, we need to add dy over dx. And that will be equal to differentiate x. That will be 1. Every time we differentiate x, we add dx over dx. But that is still a 1, so it will just be 1. To remain with dy over dx, we divide both sides by cosine of y. But just from this level where we are here, let me form a triangle. We are saying that if we have got y here, it is giving us sine of y being equal to what? X. We know that x is the same as x over 1, and we know sine is opposite over hypotenuse. That means this is the opposite and 1 is the hypotenuse. So that is going to give us opposite this side and the hypotenuse here. How can we find the adjacent? All we do is get to square this minus the square of this, and then we square root. So that will be 1 squared, which is 1 minus x squared. Therefore, if we are talking of cosine of y, cos is given by what? Adjacent over hypotenuse. So this is going to be equal to 1 divided by, where there is cosine of y, we are going to put adjacent, which is root square root of 1 minus x squared over the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is what? The hypotenuse is 1. But 1 into the root of 1 minus x squared is still a 1. So that will simply be 1 minus 1 divided by the square root of 1 minus x squared. So that is cosine of y. So this is the derivative of sine inverse of x. Another way we can do it is, we know that cosine squared y plus sine squared of y is equal to 1. I'll take the sine squared the other side. So that is going to give us what? Cosine squared of y being equal to 1 minus sine squared of y. So to remain with only cosine of y, we'll simply square root both sides. That will be 1 minus sine squared of y. But what is sine y? Sine y is x, but it is squared, so that will be cosine y being equal to the square root of 1 minus x squared. So that is going to be it. So this we need to know. That's the derivative of sine inverse. Now let's go on and prove this, since we know now the derivative. So when we get to differentiate d over dx of sine inverse of x, firstly we are finding the derivative of sine inverse, that is just 1 divided by the square root of 1 minus, in this case we are not going to use x. The angle for sine inverse is cosine of x, so that will be cosine of x squared. Okay, and then after we differentiate sine inverse, we're supposed to differentiate now the angle. When you differentiate cosine x, we get negative sine. And how do we get that? If we have got negative sine on the negative y, positive sine on the positive y, and then cosine on the positive y, positive sine on the positive x, not y, and then negative cosine on the negative y. As we go in this direction, we are differentiating. So if we differentiate negative sin, we get negative cos. If we differentiate negative cos, positive sin. But if we differentiate cos, we are seeing what? A negative sin. That's why we have gotten a negative sin there. And this is going to give us 1. Okay, I'll multiply now 1 times negative sin. That is going to be simply a negative sin of x divided by the square root of 1 minus x. We know that 1 minus cos is what? Is a sin squared. And the square root of a sin squared is simply a sin. A negative sin divided by positive sin, that is a negative 1. Hence shown.